My name is Tim Olson. I have the pleasure and privilege of being on the North American Public Sector Emerging Tech team with a focus on open hybrid cloud solutions from Red Hat. And with that, quick introduction, Adrian.
Adrian Gardner. I'm the FEMA Chief Information Officer.
My name is Cameron Chehreh, and I have the dubious pleasure of being the new Dell EMC Federal CTO globally.
Oh, well, great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we heard today a lot about some of the great things going on with open hybrid cloud solutions. Paul and Tim kicked us off earlier this morning about how open hybrid cloud becomes an enabling technology to help us move into this whole digital transformation world. And then we had a great message from the DHS CTO who told us all about the IT initiatives and changing going on in DHS. And one of the key things he said was really cool, I thought, was that ability to take leading edge and have it intersect with mission needs. So that ability to take that next-gen technology and drive it into the environment. And this is something that you're currently doing today, Adrian, some of the stuff we talked about. So you could elaborate a little bit on some of that capability you're doing with the hybrid cloud?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as Mike mentioned, FEMA has been is one of the agencies selected to kind of take on this whole modernization path from the standpoint of looking at hybrid cloud. We're doing that in two areas. One is in our flood insurance area, and the other is in grants management. Those are very key capabilities for FEMA. They are the way that we deliver services to survivors and first responders when they're in their greatest need. Think about this, that we have sitting on systems that are 15 to 20 years, they have a direct interface with the public, and the opportunity to look at hybrid cloud to accelerate then the delivery of those capabilities, and that's where we are right now. The big challenge for us has been really thinking about getting our organizational culture ready for that. So, you know, part of the things that Mike has been doing in concert with our team has really been talking about evangelizing the hybrid cloud sort of mythology, capabilities, so on and so forth, and making those real for our customers as well as our system owners. And so what we really spent a lot of time on is talking about how to indoctrinate that culture, how to appropriately place it in the organization so that it's successful. So what we've done right now, we've actually established a PMO, Program Management Office, that is managing basically 3 modernization activities that allows us to talk about hybrid cloud across sort of sectors within FEMA, that has really then allowed us to hit the cultural piece right up front and then get past it and then actually learn from each other.
Oh, that's great. That was part of some of the things we actually heard earlier about the adoption and some of the challenges is not just technical, but it is the cultural change you mentioned. Some of the other things you talked about with the open hybrid cloud was the ability to go out and drive optimization, especially in the IT infrastructure, to be able to support both what Gardner calls Mode 1 and Mode 2 environments, and be able to go out there and enable this whole transformation into digital transformation technology or next-gen technology. I know, Cameron, we talked about some of the things you're doing in that area to help drive some of those hybrid cloud solutions, to help drive these enabling technologies. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that, please?
Sure. A lot of the portfolio today is really focused on not just hybrid cloud, but how do you actually bring it into that mission context as we kicked our discussion off. When you look at a lot of the unique characteristics of the mission that FEMA has, sometimes you're operating a cloud in a disconnected state, right? You could be in a disadvantaged area, you may not be able to have communications yet, but you still require capability. So being able to build mission-centric applications that are very lightweight, possibly even disposable because the return on investment's so great at this point, you have to be able to look at it in the mission context. Portable tactical clouds that go in theater, or clouds that now harmonize through the software layer back into the enterprise, so when you finish a disaster mission and you want to do analysis on what you've actually collected, either from a refugee status or something of that nature. So for us, the full portfolio is about how do you build a capability that is economical, cost-effective, but very mission-centric from these Mode 2 applications, these cloud-native, using things like Red Hat and the OpenStack capability, layered with like a Pivotal Cloud Foundry or something of that nature, and then bringing in the containerization strategy, so you get these lightweight, very mission-centric capabilities.
And if I could just say one thing. So one of the things that we harped on and we talked in our prep calls, this whole issue of interoperability, right? And with this union between Red Hat and Microsoft is extremely important because they're automatically saying, how do I interoperate with you, right? So if we look at the service providers across the board, both open source as well as COTS and traditional, the way we provide IT, one of the things that as CIOs we would be looking for is how do you interoperate with others, open standards. You know what I'm saying? How do you work well within the environments that you're running into? A lot of times in the past, we've run into deployment strategies where there have been collision of tools and capabilities. And what we're hoping is, from a private sector perspective, that you guys take that off the plate for us. And actually you work that for us in a manner then that we can get end-to-end capability, and you guys already know sort of where each one of you are strongest. And if you can bring the best to the table, that is absolutely the right thing for government, right? And so that's what we're looking for when we talk about hybrid cloud, interoperability, and then my next thing would be to get to microservices, right? Because my mission changes, as he's stating. The disaster mission changes, flood insurance changes every year. Congress comes in and makes tweaks to the way that we deliver the service. Wouldn't it be great if my system can agilely move with those tweaks and those changes in the way that I would want to deliver it for customers and survivors? And so we would want you to think about that and solve that for us before you come to us with the solution, if that's possible.
Oh, that's great. So you're telling me that things actually change and Congress has changed things. Wow, here's a surprise. So one of the other things, is it November 8th yet? Sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of it. So one of the other things I know that we had talked about, some of the challenges that come from deploying this type of technology and driving adoption of open hybrid cloud technologies are not only the operational challenges and cultural challenges, but some of the things around security. I know that's something we had chatted about a little bit earlier. Could you elaborate about just some of the things you've learned and maybe some of the things you want to pass on as you adopt this technology, the things you want to kind of take into account when you're deploying an open hybrid cloud?
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about, so if you look at FEMA's area of operation, it's not, you see the customer-facing, very open part of FEMA, and there's a very closed, classified part of FEMA as well. So I have the privilege of leading an organization that has both, right? I'm not all open and I'm not all closed, right? But that means that hybrid sort of fits well into that bailiwick, right? And there are things that I would definitely want to do more in from a standpoint of putting them into the cloud and enabling cloud capabilities, but there are things that I actually am never going to go there with. And so this is the opportunity where we can start to have that nexus point of the discussion of saying, how do I set the framework then for the agency to make that decision? The other thing is you got to recognize FEMA is a decentralized IT organization. So as the FEMA CIO, although I have responsibility for all of it, it is decentralized. In other words, there is IT embedded within the program areas. So I must then really give them good guidance and good direction on what is right for the cloud and what isn't. And so I think it starts with sort of this governance piece of you having a real discussion about, what are the capabilities that are right for actually this kind of moving into the hybrid environment and what isn't. And then I think the next thing is setting in place the decision tools and the methodology in which you get there, right? So leading them towards the path of, if they're going to hybrid cloud, here are the tools, here are some of the best practices that we can lay out for you, having done this before, that we can put out there. So for example, we have moved our deployment tracking system into the cloud, which for the deployment tracking system probably means nothing to you, but it is the way after disaster we actually mobilize the workforce, both the federal workforce. We have temporary employees, which are 2-year appointments or more, and then we have reservists, which are really just at will. Here's the disaster, you're at home, I call you up and say, come run to the disaster. We use this tool then to scale out and notify all of those folks that will be responding to that disaster event. And that spans, again, across that entire workforce. So you could be going from a workforce of 2,000 that need to respond to that to tens and 20 of thousands of folks. So obviously putting that in the cloud was the right decision.
Actually, I know, Cameron, you had some other thoughts on the security and how to secure an open hybrid.
There was a lot of dimensions to your question, so I want to see if I can pull a couple together. As we all know, right, when you deploy Red Hat or OpenStack, you typically need higher level skills in the organization, right? It's a great capability. It has a great capability there, elasticity, scalability, all that. But it takes a little bit to get up and operational. The brilliance of having partnerships and collaboration, to dovetail what has been said here from Adrian, is when you bring industry partners like Microsoft and Red Hat and Dell EMC together, we focus and invest in integrating that so that we operationalize the technology in the way the mission needs to see it operationalized. Secondarily, what you also have to consider is that security paradigm, right? So it's security built in from the supply chain of the hardware and the software, the way we code scrub, the way we actually integrate these capabilities, but then give the government already hardened capabilities, following either security technical implementation guides, whether you're in the DoD or the taking FedRAMP underneath the hypervisor, and really starting to provide those in a complete solution into these government settings. But the real key is understanding the operational environment, understanding the security requirements effectively, and then together as a industry partner, bring a complete solution into the environment.
If I could say one more thing too, I think it's we want security to be an enabler. And we've said that for years, but we all know it still is an impediment as it's viewed by either our customers or by CIOs, right? I am tired of having the day where an organization comes to me and says, hey, I got this shiny new object and it's up and running and it's developed. Can you provide me an ATO? Well, no, I can't, till I understand, right? It'd be great if we actually considered that upfront in the discussion, even from a standpoint of from the service provider engaging that customer. And so this whole thing of integration and interoperability is sort of where you're going to hear me hammer that over and over again in this discussion, because I really want to make sure that it's easy for us to consume the capability. So what I'm hoping is that through these kinds of partnership relationships, that you guys will give us that opportunity, where then as the CIO, I can say, oh, this is FedRAMP approved, not only at the infrastructure, but also the platform. Boom, I've already got all the controls there. This is an easy lift for me, right? And so what I'd like you to do is, if you can take anything home, would be put every CIO or every leader in that's sort of leading a private sector company in that position where they can say yes. Because we really don't like to say no, but we will have to if the right sort of steps haven't been taken to secure the application or the capability.
Oh, excellent, thank you. The IT easy button, so we'll definitely be working on that. So as we were talking earlier about some of the capabilities and some of the things you're looking at doing for an open hybrid cloud, and some of the fact that it enables what you're talking about, and you were talking earlier about the ability to rapidly scale and you go from 100 people to 10,000 and all those things. Where do you see what you're doing and some of the ways you're like developing new applications, how you're setting your infrastructure up? Where do you see this going in the future? I know you had a vision we were talking about. Could you share how this hybrid cloud is enabling you to kind of move that direction?
Yeah, it starts out with us as we're really trying to set in place a modernization path. So think about this very strategically, and then we're communicating that out to industry. So we have a modernization plan that's going to be sort of like a 5-year roadmap for FEMA on how we're going to modernize a lot of the capabilities we have. I think you have to start with the planning horizon, right? Where you are, and so how do you get to that 5-year horizon? So some of this is going to take incremental steps, right? So right now, if you look at my grant systems, there's potentially 19 different grant systems that have grown up throughout FEMA, right? And so we're taking steps now to incrementally stage that for then any kind of sort of capability. Right now, we've sort of have thought about using cloud and other aspects. Hybrid is definitely in play, but we want to make sure that we, as the customer, are staging the move to hybrid cloud. So I think you've got to really step back and think about, from a business perspective, technologically, where you are in order to make that happen. I would hate for a vendor to have to come in and deal with the cultural aspects of that. So I think as leaders within the CIO community, we should be thinking about how do we stage these different capabilities to make that happen. So one is sort of the planning horizon. The second thing is then I need skill set within the government. We need to be wise consumers of the technology and the information that you're sharing with us. And that is a constant battle, right? So as we look at our workforce internally within FEMA, we have got to be staging then the right competent people and building competency within our workforce to make that happen. So the workforce piece is a piece that I would point to. And you guys know it. When you come to folks and you're going like, they just don't get it. I'm going to another agency. What I'd like you to do is come in and at hello say, hey, this CIO, this leadership team gets it. They understand what I'm saying, and we're working through that. And if not, educating, they're at least offering the opportunity for you to come in and educate us. So for example, I have an hour-long staff meeting I have every week. And one of the things that I've been doing is bringing vendors in this space to educate my leadership. where you can give a 15, 20-minute sort of conversation around your capability, your particular platform, how it plays out, and how you think it relates to FEMA, and putting it out there. And so I think you got to have this constant education piece that's going on. So education, the professionalization of the workforce, and then staging these things for real time.
Great. We'll be there. Just let us know when, day and time. And I know, Cameron, you had talked about some of the things that you were working on, like from an infrastructure side, and as we talked earlier about the ability to optimize IT and drive that next-gen capability while supporting the mission where it is today, right? Because we want to be as minimally disruptive, support what we need to do, but enable that transformation for the future, right? So what are some of the things you're doing from where we are today and then seeing into the future perspective?
Sure. All of our strategy moving forward is all about digital transformation. When we look at ourselves, we have to really accept the fact that we're in a digital economy. Microservices, all these things, they're here. We can't deny it anymore. We're carrying mobile phones. We do banking on our mobile phones or our tablets or our PCs or laptops. So for us, it's all about that digital economy, that digital transformation, and how do you enable that from the top down or bottom up, whichever way you think. So let's go bottom up. The first thing you need is a modern infrastructure, right? Whether it's cloud native, cloud-based, cloud-enabled, cloud really is just the journey, it's not the destination. From there, you have to have your automation tools, because we recognize that in this digital economy, there's another factor and another bow wave about to hit us that we're not talking about, which is the data explosion, right? We're going to produce more data in the next 10 years than we've done in the last 100 years. In the last 2 years, 98% of the data that's ever been created in the world was created in the last 2 years. That's only going to exacerbate and accelerate itself. So when we talk digital transformation, we have to rethink everything about IT. As we move up the stack, now we have to have that platform service to be able to create those lightweight composite applications that are those second-level applications that are always mission-centric first and then fold on to the digital infrastructure. So when we look at the economy, the digital transformation that's occurring, that's why we've built our company the way we've built it, is to deal with that digital transformation that's upon us now. It's no longer a buzzword.
Oh, great. So, and so that goes a lot to what you were mentioning earlier, Adrian, the ability to have the technology in a way that you can engage it rapidly, easily, the easy button, basically, to minimize the disruption, to take advantage of the enabling technology to allow you to transform or deliver the mission in a more efficient way today. So we're coming up on time here, so what I'd like to do is if you could elaborate a little bit and kind of, if you want to share with some of the best practices, lessons learned from your hybrid cloud journey so far for the benefit of folks in the room here.
Yeah, so I think with a little bit of time left, one is making sure that we understand our requirements. I don't think we spend enough time on understanding our requirements, both from a standpoint of the CIO requirements, which most of the time don't get it right with the customer. So I think from a standpoint of bringing the customer in very closely to sort of the dialogue on how you establish a requirement and validate a requirement. For example, with the grants modernization effort, we've done listening sessions across the nation, across our entire sort of customer and stakeholder population to gain information directly on how would we actually set a requirement for the future state of that system. So that would be one. The second thing I think is really having sort of constant and continuous dialogue, right? It's part of the agile process. We say agile. FEMA wants agile. I don't think we really even understand what agile means yet, right? I mean, I've come from an agile environment in NASA where they did agile with SAP. You know, I've got to be in the office with you as we're developing and actually refining those requirements and implementing them. So I think the other part is really staging the community for how they're going to deal with this rapid sort of development sort of life cycle that we're on right now. And I agree that really cloud is really just the mechanism. It is not the destination. So what is next, right? Internet of Things and those kinds of things. I think we've got to stage this whole notion of the data explosion that we're going to be getting from all of these devices, and how do we then position sort of the different agencies to take advantage of it.
Well, excellent. Okay, well, we're out of time here. I'm sorry, Cameron.
That's okay.
So thank you for your time. Thank you for helping us understand how we can engage with the hybrid cloud to enable that transformation. So big hand for the panel here. Thank you so much for your work.